I want to look at 4 hacks to get rid of that belly fat, those love handles that we sometimes can struggle with in the second part of our lives. You know, it was a couple months ago that I realized, I looked at myself in the mirror, I thought, well, wait a minute, there's some love handles there. I'm gaining a little bit in the midsection. I weighed myself and I had gained some weight. And I thought to myself, you know, I need to begin to look at this and see how I can address this issue of these love handles. And that's what I want to take a look at and share with you some of the things that I've learned. Now, I need to give you a disclaimer. I am not a medical professional. And so I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've learned. And I would encourage you to research this yourself to get a good understanding of these different hacks. And I think it's really important for you to also get medical advice on this. Certainly if you've had an injury or there's a medical issue going on in your life, as you think about becoming healthier and working through some of these issues, you need to include your doctor in that process. But as I said, some months ago, I began to realize this was happening to me. A lot of people look at me and they think, well, you're a thin build, you never have these issues. Well, as you think about the best is yet to be in the second part of life, you realize that our bodies are changing, our metabolism is slowing down, and what I could eat when I was 20, I can't eat now, and so I had to begin to deal with it. And this is really important, is to begin to look at our second part of life, and really enjoying the second part of our life is to realize the changes that take place in our life. And our goal shouldn't be to look like a model or look like somebody on the internet, but our goal has to be physically healthy and able to enjoy life and do the things that we need to do. And part of that is taking care of the body that God has given us. I want to be, and I think about it in terms of being a good steward of my body, that I realize that there are things that I need to take care of in my body in order for it to work well and for me to feel well and to have the energy. It's much like car maintenance. If you've had a car for any amount of time, you realize that in order for that car to run well and to run for a long time, there are certain maintenance things that need to take place. You need to change the oil. You need to have the tires changed, the transmission fluid, all these things. If you take care of those maintenance things, then your car will run well in the second part of its life. And the same thing is true with us and our bodies, our physical bodies, that we need to maintain them and care for them in order that we can have a great second part of our life. There are some things that are not in our control physically, but we need to control and manage those things that we're able to control in our physical bodies. I realize as I maintain my proper weight, and it looks different for different people. Some people have a thin build like me, some people have a heavier build, and it's you evaluating your own body and seeing what's right for you. But I realized as I worked on that idea of managing my weight that I would have more energy. There would be more that I would be able to do because I'm not carrying around that excess weight. And I realized as I began to address this issue and think about the issue of managing the fat percentage of my body, that if I dealt with that well, then I'd have more energy in the second part of my life. There's a lot of stress that goes into that excess weight that we can have on our joints, and that certainly can affect the way that we handle and the way that we're able to go through the second part of our life. It even can affect our sleep. It affects heart disease and so many other issues related to our health. And I began to think about that and thinking, you know, I need to be a little more proactive, and I need to begin to manage my weight a little bit better and not let it get out of hand. So I want to give you 4 hacks, 4 practices to get rid of that belly fat. A hack is basically something that's simple and effective in accomplishing something. And as I suggest these 4 things, as I said before, you need to research them. You need to look into them. You need to understand each of these 4 in detail. I'm just going to touch on them and kind of share what I did. And again, you might want to check with your doctor to get their input on those things. The first hack to get rid of the belly fat is walking. I was so amazed when I found this out, that just by walking, you could increase your metabolism, that you could burn off those calories. Now, walking not in a slow, relaxing pace, but you need to target for 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. And so one of the things that I started to do was to go for a walk in the morning. I've talked about about that before. I'd go for a walk, and my target was to go for a walk of about 50 minutes to an hour. Great time in the morning. I would take the dogs, but it wasn't a leisurely walk. I had to pick up the pace. I got to a place where I was walking faster. I wasn't out of breath, but I was really pushing it to go a little faster. It was about, for me, 17 to 17 and a half minute miles. It was a great way for me to start my morning, to get a little bit of exercise, to push myself into that 60 to 70% fat burning range that I had. The second hack for getting rid of that midsection, if it's beginning to grow on you a little bit, is intermittent fasting. And again, this is one of those things you may want to check with your doctor on. I actually looked at some videos on the YouTube channel for Eric Berg that was really helpful in getting me to understand intermittent fasting and the process that you go through when you're in a fasted state, that you're able to burn off some of those calories. Also, in intermittent fasting, you end up in a caloric deficit, which is obviously going to help you to lose some of that excess weight. And so what I started to do was I decided that I was going to intermittent fasting. That means I would eat a good dinner about 6 p.m. and then I would fast that evening, obviously all night, and then my goal was to go until 11 or 12 in the morning without eating. Now, I drank a lot of water. I drank coffee to help with that process also. And I was really amazed. I thought that I was going to be hungry in the evening. I thought definitely in the morning that I was going to be hungry. But once I got into it, that morning time, especially with drinking the coffee, that really helped me. I didn't have a lot of hunger pains once I got into it and my body was used to that pattern. One of the side effects that I was really encouraged by is the fact that as I was fasting that morning after the evening, I felt that I was a lot clearer in my mind, and it really helped me to get a lot of my work done in the morning. Well, thanks for watching my video. I hope it's an encouragement to you. I want to ask you to subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll receive a notification of upcoming videos, and it also gives me a chance to connect with more people on the internet. The third hack to begin to reduce that belly fat, those love handles that you may have, is interval training. I've also done some reading and some looking into that. I used to run long distances, which is great, but they say that the interval training, or the HIIT, high intensity interval training, is really good for ramping up your metabolism. So what I decided to do was that on the days that I wasn't lifting weights, that I would begin to do interval training either on a stationary bike or I would do it running. I would go out running. I did it for 20 minutes. So I would do 2 minutes of just walking, warm up. I would sprint for 30 seconds, not killing myself, but really picking up the pace. So I would sprint for 30 seconds. I would walk for a minute and a half. Then I would sprint for 30 seconds and I would walk for a minute and a half, totaling 20 minutes. When I did the interval training on the bike, I did a very similar thing. I would ride the bike easy for 2 minutes. Then I would sprint on the bike for 30 seconds, pedal very easily, and then go back to 30 seconds for a total of 20 minutes. The interesting thing to me is when I wanted to lose that belly fat, that I wanted to combine some of these things. I thought to myself, well, if I could do one of these, maybe I could do more of one. And so even while I was fasting, I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to be able to do interval training in the morning. But I tried it and I actually found that for myself that I was able to do the intermittent fasting and not having eaten, and also do the interval training. Now again, you've got to listen to your own body as far as what you're able to do. But I did like the idea of trying to get off that belly fat by doing more than one of these hacks at a time. The fourth hack that I employed during this time when I was trying to get rid of those love handles was weight training. Weight training also is something that increases your metabolism when you begin to build more muscle mass. Guys are going to build probably more muscle mass than women are naturally, but for anybody to have in your repertoire of exercise one day for weight training. So right now, every fourth day I do some weight training. Maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. But in doing that weight training and trying to build some muscle mass, that also helped me in order to raise my metabolism and burn off some of that belly fat. Well, there's the 4 hacks. I hope that, again, you will do your research and consult your medical doctor if you need to. As you think about this idea of addressing the belly fat, I've had to do it. We all have to look at that in the second part of life. And again, my desire was in the second part of my life to be healthy, to be able to function, to be at my peak for my age. And I think that these 4 hacks have really helped me to be able to achieve that. I hope that this video has been an encouragement to you, and I want to ask you to do quickly 2 things. Would you give me a thumbs up? That gives me more visibility to reach other people. And would you also consider sharing this with somebody via text or email? I appreciate that. Thank you. So I hope that you will look into this and consider it and have as your goal that desire and expectation in your life that the best is yet to be.